Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Thrive Live. Our guest today is Chris Knipp from DHR International, and they are an executive search and talent advisory firm. Today, Jason and Ray are going to be talking with him about hiring in the current challenging economic environment, which is a subject I think that affects everybody right now. Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, Beth. Greetings from Austin, Texas. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Hey, Beth. This is Ray. I'm in Denver, Colorado.
And I'm, again, in Katy, Texas.
Like I said, keeping it real in Katy. There you go.
Tell me and our audience about Chris.
Well, I've known Chris for over 20 years. Chris is currently the managing partner of the Dallas office at DHR International. They're an executive search firm, and Chris has got over 30 years of HR experience. He spent a lot of years as a CHRO, in different industries. I mean, Chris has worked in energy, retail, hospitality, industrial manufacturing, consumer products, and healthcare. Chris is passionate about helping people make professional connections and really helping them change their lives through new opportunities. Chris has been finding great talent in the executive search area for over 6 years, with the last 2 of those years, with DHR International. He's had leadership roles at ExxonMobil, US F&G Insurance, Safe Light Glass, Agreco, Spectrum Clubs, Centex Homes, Hostess Brands, and also Accent Care in the healthcare industry. Chris is a good friend of mine. We've got a strong connection due to our kids growing up together in South Lake, Texas. His oldest son and my youngest son, ran around South Lake and caused problems and played lacrosse together. And we're really happy to have Chris join us today on Thrive Live.
All right, let's bring him in. Hi, Chris. Welcome.
Hello.
Let me ask you where you are right now, Chris. We always have to say where our locale is.
I am in South Lake, Texas, the origin of Ray and I knowing each other.
That's great. That's great. Well, thanks a lot, Chris, for joining us. We really wanted to talk a little bit today about what's happening in the marketplace from a talent perspective, not only as an employee and how do you, or as a candidate, and how do you get on the radar of executive search firms, but also for organizations that want to find good talent. Where do you, how do you connect with search firms like yourself?
Let you guys talk.
Excellent.
Great. One important thing I need to tell you before we start. You can now get Ding Dong flavored coffee. The Hostess reference made me remember that. Okay, you can now.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Really I like it. That's actually my coffee of choice in the morning. But okay, I'm sorry.
Ding Dong flavored coffee.
Yes, I went off on a tangent. I shouldn't have.
That's awesome.
Ding Dong there. Well, I guess we'll let that one go.
Yeah, don't explore. Just let that one go. All right, go ahead.
All righty. Hey, Chris. So real quick. I mean, we're in a tough hiring environment right now with the number of folks that are unemployed and the economic slowdown. How do people get on the radar of executive search organizations like DHR?
Yeah. Well, I will get to that question, but let me first just congratulate you guys on Thrive HR and getting that new brand launched and all the great things you're doing in the marketplace. As you mentioned, we've been friends a long time, and we've watched each other's careers, and I'm really excited for what you're doing with Thrive now. So good for you guys.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Sure. So yeah, no doubt this is an unprecedented time in the employment market, and it is tough out there. There's no question about it, but there is hope. And I think we are seeing things rebound quite a bit now. But to your immediate question, how does one get on the radar? I mean, I was having this conversation with somebody just yesterday that he said for the first 15 years or 20 years of their career, they were with larger companies, things were good, and they were just kind of focused very insularly on managing their career growth, and they hadn't really spent a lot of time networking and reaching out, and it became almost painfully apparent in recent times. So I would say the key really is always be mindful of networking. Respond to the calls that come in from recruiters. Uh, Actively keep your social media profiles updated and be mindful of what's on them. As recruiters, we monitor. Obviously, LinkedIn is a tool that most everyone in the professional world is using today, and it's well worth one's while to ensure that you have a professional photo on your LinkedIn profile, that you are using keywords that describe the experiences that you've had, so that recruiters can, when they're doing keyword searches, can actually find your background as they're focusing in on assignments that are related to experience. But I, like many people, when you're gainfully employed and you're busy at what you're doing, it's difficult to take the time to answer the phone when it rings and give people the time of day. And I would say that that's probably just a really critical aspect, is to be open to conversations with people within your professional network and understand what's going on around you.
Yeah, and I've always said that one of the best people that I ever knew that does connecting is Ray, and he's really phenomenal at that. And he always does an amazing job of reaching out and staying connected with his neighborhood. So that's a super important point. The next question that I wanted to ask you is, what's happening with executive search companies? Because I have a number of folks that, like you, they own their own executive search practice, and some of them have seen, $1 million worth of business that have just evaporated since March. And so it's been a really difficult situation for a lot of people in executive search. Is executive search active right now? And if it is active, what kind of roles are going on? And you said a little bit about things are starting to come back a little bit, which is great because we all need to have a little hope. Hope is super important to everyone. So can you talk to us a little bit about that, Chris?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the search business has definitely struggled. I would say from March until June, business was tough. I took a personal approach during the early months of the pandemic to be respectful of my colleagues. Felt like the last thing that they needed was to have somebody else creating noise and clutter in their inbox when they were trying to figure out how to survive. So the industry's been tough. I will say that I've been blessed to be part of DHR, which is one of the largest firms in the world. So during a difficult time, we've I think put the brakes on a little bit in the early going to be respectful, but we've actually grown. We've added partners to the firm. We've added resources. Now, as we start to see the economy rebounding a bit, we're poised to capitalize on that. But no doubt, the summer was quiet. July, August, September, we've seen probably 70 to 80% of our business come back.
That's great to hear.
Again, we're a multifunctional, multi-industry firm. We work across the entire globe in just about every functional area that is out there. So I think some of the more narrowly focused firms in industries that are particularly challenged, like hospitality and retail, have certainly struggled. Multifunctional, bigger firms like ours have had periods of slowdown, but we're feeling pretty bullish about where the economy is right now. And as we start to to get into 2021. You know, the odd reality is the end of the year tends to be a little slower. So as the economy is now starting to recover, November and December really are always slow months for search. So we will be in just a natural period of quiet during those months as we hopefully start to see the economy continue picking up.
Great. Now, with in executive search, a lot of times, um, those relationships are really important. Kind of the face-to-face communication and interviewing, and taking candidates to dinner. Because they're such critical hires to an organization. What's happening now in the market where you've got to do everything virtual, and how have things been adjusted because of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the technology like the one that we're using today is manna from heaven for that process. I mean, the quality of video discussion technology is so far advanced today from where it's been historically that it really does enable quality discussions to take place in a way that feels almost natural. That said, I do think that there is a balance that I'm still seeing in my client base, at least, probably maybe 50-50, if not maybe 60-40 toward the virtual interviewing. But I still do see clients that are wanting, if not insisting, on seeing candidates in person. And we've been able to do that in many instances. But the video interviewing methodology has really served as a very effective proxy for live interviewing.
Great.
When you talk about the live interviewing and you talk about candidates and prospective employers doing that, how have you seen the onboarding processes go? I know that's been something that's been a little bit challenging. Is yes, we're able to do the interviews, but then once people get on board, it's been a little challenging in terms of getting people onboarded with the team. So have you seen anything interesting or new in which companies have been helping people get onboarded more efficiently in some of the companies?
Yeah. So it's an interesting, almost ironic reality that in normal times, I do think sometimes onboarding and assimilation is oftentimes forgotten and not attended to as consciously as we see it being attended to today of necessity. So there are many firms out there, including my own, that are offering onboarding and assimilation products to their clients. We have a sister organization within DHR called Elevate Partners, and they like other talent advisories in the industry at large, have built and developed and are deploying onboarding and assimilation tools that are helping clients focus on the nuances and discipline of getting new individuals on board. But it is true. We have candidates that never meet a client live and are being onboarded and assimilated in a virtual way without ever being on the premises of their new employer. So it certainly poses those challenges. But I do think that it's about consciousness and it's about deliberation. And I do think it's, as I mentioned, sort of in an ironic way, we may actually be doing better.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That is.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, from a candidate perspective, Chris, what can these candidates do to be successful in their searches? I mean, there's things that are maybe unwritten rules that are out there that maybe we can help people be successful in their searches.
Yeah, the old adage, right? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. I think in this climate, it's about prepare. Candidates really do need to be disciplined about their search. They need to understand that it's an incredibly competitive labor market. That in In all likelihood, there are many other individuals competing for the same limited number of jobs that they might be interested in. It's amazing how often we hear feedback, and I don't hear this very often because I hopefully do a pretty decent job of preparing my candidates as they go on to client interviews. But we often hear candidates, in the interview process show up for interviews unprepared. They haven't done their homework about the company. They haven't really done their homework about the industry. I tell candidates that oftentimes a great question can be exponentially better than a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Be thoughtful about what you need to know about the company that you're prospectively joining. What do you need to know about the culture? What do you need to know about the ethos of how people get along with one another in the business? What do you want to know about the strategic plans for the future? And come thoughtfully prepared to the discussion, because you have a unique opportunity to interview the prospective company as well as be interviewed by them.
Yeah, that's super important. There's just nothing more frustrating as a hiring person to have somebody come across in your office and they know nothing about what you're doing, have spent no time, and you just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm giving you this or preparing you for an opportunity, and you've not done what you need to do on your side. So it's incredibly frustrating. So talk to us a little bit about, are there any new approaches to hiring executive talent that you're seeing? I know that's always a space that's evolving. What have you seen going on with that?
Yeah, so yes, it's evolving. I would say that it's still about getting to know what makes people tick in the interview process. So you can read about someone's background on a resume and have a pretty good idea of what they've done, where they've been, what kinds of experiences they've had. But the challenge in making a great executive hire is understanding what is unique about the position that the client organization is trying to fill, and what is it about the candidate that is unique that allows them to be aligned with those requirements. So it's about we call that fit. And there's really no substitute. There's no magic pill that's going to allow the employer or the candidate to discern that, other than really getting to know one another through good questionings and good dialogue. Now, we certainly see technology playing a greater role. There are certainly bots that do that do candidate identification. There is AI technology today that can exponentially accelerate access to data and information, that can produce lists of people that meet certain criteria. And that's a great help to hiring companies. It's a great help to search firms as we try to zero in on where talent resides. But at the end of the day, there's still no substitute for taking the time to deeply understand what makes people who they are, what they're looking for, what their unique capabilities are, and how that lines up with what an employer needs.
How often do you see things like Hogan or the Wonderlic used in these types of hires?
Well, so oftentimes we have a proprietary tool that we use within DHR called Leap, that we built with Columbia University, that provides us a service to all of our clients to give them a view of some of the psychometric factors that are behind the candidates that they see. We also supplement that oftentimes with tools like Hogan, like McQuaig, and like some others that are out there. Oftentimes, larger companies will have those tools within their own organizational toolkits, and we see that they use them. And where they don't, it's a service offering that almost any competent and professional search firm should be offering to their clients at this time.
Great. One of the questions we had is about DHR. I mean, what kind of new programs have been developed by the organization? And how is DHR different from other search firms? And kind of what's the secret sauce that kind of makes you want to be there? and as well as in this industry?
Yeah. That's a great question, because at the end of the day, search is search, recruiting is recruiting. So there are nuances about each firm that really do differentiate. For us, it's really two things that I think would be most different than a lot of the other big firms that are out there. So we're one of the largest firms in the world, but we're still a family-owned firm. And have been since the beginning of the firm. So we think of ourselves as kind of a global boutique, in that we're big and global, but we are still an order of magnitude smaller than other big firms, so that we act and feel and appear to the client and the candidate much more like a boutique, in terms of the high touch attention to detail that one gets from that environment. So we can bring all of the reach and all of the tools and all of the perspective of a multifunctional, multidisciplined global firm to the marketplace, but we still act very much like a local player. So one, global boutique, family owned. And secondly, it's really about the ethos of our firm comes down to the word collaboration. We really are a firm that works boundarylessly with one another across practice areas, across geographies, and across the different business units within the firm. So we put the client at the center of all that we do, and we don't worry about competing against the Dallas P&L competing against the Chicago P&L, or the industrial practice competing against the healthcare practice. We have a single P&L across the entire family-owned firm, and we worry about taking care of our clients and taking care of our candidates.
It's great. It's great.
How are candidates feeling today about things, Chris? I mean, what's the overall morale of candidates right now?
Again, I think it's wide and varied, Jason. I say the reality is that there are many people today looking for work through no fault of their own that have never had to do so before. So I think that's probably the tragedy that we see in the marketplace, is folks that have been gainfully employed at one or two, maybe a few employers over a lengthy career. Now suddenly the world that they knew 8 or 9 months ago has changed so dramatically, and they're for the first time in a labor market that is ever more challenging than it's been, and they've never had to do it before. So I think they're scared. There's a lot of folks out there that are feeling very uncertain, very uneasy, very frightened about the reality of having to look for work in this environment.
Yeah, it's really tough. And I feel for everyone that's in that space right now. I know so many people that are, and it's just a difficult spot for everyone.
Yeah. And we have, and we always will, just try to be sensitive to the realities that people are facing. And it's again, my own personal approach within the search world has always been to try to be a generous giver, to make unqualified investments in the goodness of others, and try to just give back, to take the time to understand where people are at, to take the time to help people think through the opportunities that are ahead of them, whether that means anything for me or not.
Well, that's great, and we really appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons why you're such a good friend to us, that we really appreciate that kind of approach and attitude out there. So that's awesome. When do we start to talk to people about reinventing themselves? When do you start to have that conversation with people? I mean, where does that start to come in, where maybe they have to look at their resume a little bit different, or look at what they're going to do a little bit differently?
I think we need to always be reinventing ourselves, right? It can't be a moment in time activity. It really has to be a journey. That said, the discussion that I most often hear from executives today is, I've spent 25 or 30 years in X, Y, or Z industry. It's now an industry that's changing in a way that I'm not comfortable. How do I get myself somewhere else? Or how do I make the transition from big industry to private equity? How do I make the transition from working for a public company to a private company? And it really does start with, I think, a capabilities inventory. So we have to think differently about where we've been and what we've done to shifting the focus to who am I and what am I good at, and where else can that potentially play. And then folks that are interested in making those kinds of career transitions, need to sometimes be willing to take a half step sideways, or potentially even, I never like to say backwards, but oftentimes, it may be that a very accomplished senior executive in a large company might have to take a different kind of role somewhere else to resharpen their saw a bit before they can achieve their ultimate goal.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I've always said to people throughout the years, sometimes you have to take a step backward to go 2 steps forward, and that's just the way that the world works sometimes. But I think that's all really super important advice. Ray, I think you had a
just real quickly, I mean, Chris, as an HR leader, how does an HR leader kind of identify somebody a partner to work with in the area of executive search, and what are some of the parameters around the charge and how much it costs, and how long will it take to fill these critical roles?
Sure. Well, there's a lot to unpack in that question.
Yeah.
If we really are fundamentally in the relationship business.
Mm-hmm.
So if an executive seeking help from a firm like ours will hopefully have relationships that they've cultivated over time with many of us, and then it fundamentally comes down to who has the capability, who has taken the time to invest in getting to know you as a person, as a company, as a culture, so that there's an element of being relevant to them at the time. I mean, certainly, someone needing a search firm has many choices. We like to be relevant based upon investing a lot of time getting to know people and really letting them know how we work and what we do. The search process. So we work for our client companies. So we're hired by and engaged by employers to fill positions. I think there's often a misnomer in the marketplace that candidates reach out to a search firm saying, how can I engage with and leverage you? And again, we should always be taking time to have those conversations and get to know what we would refer to as the seeker population, those that are looking to engage with employers. But we work for the hiring company. And the retained executive search model, which is where we play, is typically billing the client a percentage of the candidate's first year anticipated total cash compensation. It's a very typical fee structure in the retained search world. And so the other question you asked is, how long does it take? A typical search is probably running between 70 to 100 days. Mm-hmm. Anything quicker than 70 is being done quickly and well. If it gets to be a whole lot longer than 90 to 100 days, both the search firm and the client organization are probably starting to get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's fairly typical.
Oh, good.
You have, let's say you're the head of HR and you have the CEO coming to you and saying, you need to hire that new CMO or you need to hire that new CFO, and the person needs to get here. What are the questions that you should ask of a potential search partner before you engage with them to make sure you're engaging with the right firm for your organization?
Sure. Well, I think you first and foremost, you want to, understand whether that firm has an expertise in the particular area that you're looking for, right? So a large firm like ours that works across disciplines and across multiple industries is positioned to support just about any need that a client may have. Uh, I personally, as I'm building my business development relationships, am seeking to understand where people like that have needs. And then I work within the firm to identify the best talent that we have, the best subject matter expertise, and the best team to meet that client's needs. So the client should certainly be interested in, does the firm have the capability, the experience, and the marketplace knowledge to be relevant and effective to what I need to fill? And then it's about, what is their track record in terms of filling positions? What is the process that they go through to fill positions? What's their interview process? What tools do they use? How involved is the partner in the search? Is it a situation where the partner is selling business and then handing it off to an execution team? Or does the partner stay intimately and actively involved in all of the steps of the process? And it asked, how does DHR differentiate? The question earlier, that would be another element where we may be different than a lot of the other big firms, in that our partners are very much intimately involved in the work we do. So we sell business to our clients, and we stay very, very close throughout the process of executing the work to ensure that the client is getting the best resources that we can put forward to solve their talent challenge.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because it really is a partnership, and you have to really feel good about the search partner that you're with, and you really feel like they're going to administer to your needs effectively.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, Chris, what kind of things will you be looking for from a client, to kind of launch a search? I mean, what kind of information are you trying to collect?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because the key to success, frankly, of a search is a good initiation. If we start it well and we take the time up front to gather the information that we need, we're exponentially increasing the likelihood of success. So what are some of those things? We want to understand, what is the role? What are the requirements? What are the experiences and capabilities that one requires? If they have a job description, that's a great place to start. Org charts, where does the role fit within the structure of the company? It helps for us to get a download from the client organization about what's going on from their point of view within their industry and within their company. We're obviously knowledgeable in their space to have earned the right to be having the conversation in the first place. But hearing it from the client's point of view makes a huge difference. If they have competency models or leadership models, those are incredibly helpful to gather up front. But to really understand, many people can fill the need. Many people, we say, can do the job. The real question is, what is required uniquely of that role within your company, within this environment, at this time in your company's history? Are you growing? Are you transitioning? Are you struggling? Are you in a turnaround mode? Are you in a fix-it mode? Are you poised for growth? Are you poising for sale? So understanding uniquely what's happening in the climate of the company will make a smaller group of candidates much more attractive to the client than if their circumstances are different. We like to meet as many of what we call the jury as possible, defined as who are the decision makers on the search, who will be deciding whether our candidate gets hired, and understanding what they're looking for. We would be surprised how often people within the client organization have different point of views of what success looks like. So our ability to ferret that out up front and say, hey, guys, Jason, you and Ray have described success in this role completely differently as we've talked to you independently. You know, we need you guys to get aligned about what success looks like before we can help you fill this need, because you know the candidate that Jason is going to like is going to look very different than
Yeah.
the candidate that Ray is probably going to be interested in based upon the descriptions that you've given us.
And that has never ever happened to me in my entire career, Chris. Never.
Great initiation. Kick it off the right way. Take the time up front to do the heavy lifting to really get to know the client organization and what success looks like.
I think that is great advice, and that happens a lot. And you would be surprised how often that happens. So you're working with a search partner, and they're just not doing what you need them to do. How do you handle that?
Well, so you first and foremost you end the relationship with that firm and you hire DHR.
Excellent. We like that.
There you go. There you go.
Now, kidding aside, so any reputable search firm should have a cancellation provision in the contract that's put in place, that would allow a search firm to be removed from an assignment. Hopefully that's not the case, right? So I would say first thing that a dissatisfied client should do is express why they're dissatisfied. I mean, we find that our greatest success with clients is with those that are deeply engaged and readily available as questions come about, that there's a dialogue and a relationship, not just a mechanical process of reviewing candidates. So if clients are invested in the success of the search process and dialoguing on a regular basis with their search partner, it's very, very rare that the relationship doesn't lead to success. And in my own experience, I've been at this for 6 years. But I think I can maybe point to one search out of that entire time that was really challenged, and it came down honestly to the spec changing pretty dramatically over time. And perhaps if I would reflect back, we all learn from our own lessons of experience, right? And I probably hadn't done as adequate a job as I needed to up front to really define what those success criteria looked like. And once we kind of regrouped and refocused, we were able to get to a great outcome.
Yeah, and that spec is so important. I know that I've driven some retained search firms crazy with the spec changing multiple times, which is never a lot of fun to have to go through that dialogue. But that spec is super critical.
Yeah, but I'd say if people in the cyber world that are hiring folks listening to this discussion, build a relationship with your search partner and invest yourself deeply in the success of the outcome. It's not about putting a coin in the search machine and out pops a candidate and a successful outcome. It's really about the client organization needs to be as deeply invested in success as the search firm, and you work as a partnership toward a common objective.
And you really need to have a person that really is, working with that executive search partner and spending a lot of time with them engaged in that search. I think one of the worst things that, a company can do is turn on an executive search and then, be under the assumption that you're going to fully outsource it without you being involved, meaning the company being involved to help work with that company to ensure that things are going in the right direction. And you really have to invest in yourself as a corporation and as a TA function to make sure that you get the best results. To me, that's super important.
Yeah, we use the term that our clients are engaging with a partner. They're not hiring a vendor.
Correct.
We are not a vendor. We are a we and this industry that I'm part of, but certainly we as a firm and my own practice it's a deeply invested relationship with a client organization that at the end of the day should result in helping to change the life of a candidate and helping to dramatically raise the bar on an organization's success by bringing together an organization and an individual that can make a huge difference.
That's a great summary of the relationship that has to happen with executive search and organizations. So Chris, how do folks get in contact with you? How do they, what are some of the different ways and that folks can connect?
So certainly to connect with me personally, my email address is cknipp@dhrinternational.com. Our firm has a wonderful online presence, so you can certainly Google DHR and find all of the resources that the firm has to offer. My mobile phone is perilously on 24/7, and I would invite anybody to call 817-937-6841 at any time that they'd like to chat. And if I don't answer the phone, it doesn't take me very long to call back.
That's great.
That is great service.
Great. And again, we really appreciate your time. We have been doing similar kind of work with folks within our network, and offering to help people through their search process of new opportunities. So, anybody out there that's listening to this, if you're looking for help or support, please send us a message at thrivehrconsulting.com. And we'd love to help you. I spent 45 minutes yesterday talking with somebody, getting them prepared for an interview tomorrow. So we really think it's important that folks really, like you said, are prepared for those interviews, because you only have a one shot to make a good impression, and that's really important for folks.
Well, I mean, in this time, this day and age, just some genuine human decency and caring goes a long way. People are struggling. It's tough out there. And anything we can do to extend a helping hand to those around us in our communities will ultimately make a big difference.
Yeah, and it's all about empathy right now. So we totally agree with you.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris. Again, fantastic discussion. And please, folks on the Thrive TV channel, look for Chris Knipp, as well as our other interviews.
And hit subscribe. If you like our videos, hit subscribe to our channel. Help us hit 1,000 subscribers. That's what we're shooting for. And we'd love to hear your feedback when you subscribe. Leave us a comment about things that you like or things that you don't, and we'll be happy to work on that. So thank you very much.
Ray, Jason, thank you guys for what you're doing. It's an honor to be part of your community. And thank you so much for the opportunity today to share my story and talk a little bit about the industry and DHR.
Thanks, Chris. We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for being on.
Thank you very much.
Take care.